The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. President Marcos is set to issue an order making the use of face masks indoors voluntary. Let's talk more about that with infectious diseases expert Dr. Jaime Montoya. Dr. Montoya is also the Executive Director of the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development. Dr. Montoya, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. First off, do you agree with this proposal to completely make the use of face masks mandatory?
I think it's difficult really to make a definite decision at this point to make voluntary masking indoors because of the subvariants that have been coming up. We don't exactly know how they will behave in the coming weeks. And I think we still have to observe how they will behave in terms of number of cases and severe cases, even among the vaccinated people. So I think it bears that we still have to observe how the subvariants will behave, especially so that I know you've heard of the XBB variant that's been identified in Asia, particularly in Singapore. We don't really know how they will behave as far as transmission and severity of disease is concerned.
All right. Well, for at least for outdoors, wearing of face masks has been voluntary for about a month now. Would you think that in the past month it did have a significant impact on the COVID situation here in the Philippines?
Well, if you look at the cases, except for certain provinces and regions with some significant increase in cases, we have maintained the protection of our vaccines, afforded by our vaccines among our population, because the severe cases have actually been reduced and have stabilized. And I think as far as severe infections are concerned, that is more important because, you know, infections can happen, especially as you open up and you relax on the masking requirement. But the important thing is that if people get infected, they should actually just be mild cases or cases not requiring hospitalization.
Among the easing that the government is pushing forth, Dr. Montoya, apart, of course, from voluntary wearing of masks, is the removal of testing for inbound passengers, meaning foreigners no longer have to be fully vaccinated and no more PCR testing. Do you think this would have a more significant impact to our case count?
Well, considering that, again, the BA4, the BA5, and now the XBB subvariants have been reported in different parts of the world, it may have impact if they are brought into the country as what happened in the past. So I think, as I said, we don't know how these variants or subvariants will behave as far as countries with no reported cases of such subvariants. Maybe it will be allowed. But for now, I think it's better to observe first how these variants will behave in the real world setting here in the Philippines.
All right, thank you for making that distinction, Dr. Montoya. Now, now that we are easing all these restrictions, can we say now that the Philippines is really on track to reaching the COVID endemic stage that we have been waiting for over 2 years now?
Well, it seems to be that we're moving into that direction. For as long as these subvariants do not have a major effect on the protection provided by our current vaccines, and as far as prevention of severe disease is concerned, then I think we are on track. But of course, as I said, we don't know whether these subvariants, which have variable effects on the antibodies produced by our current vaccines, as far as protection is concerned, prevention of severe disease is concerned, we don't know. So we still have to see.
All right, one last question really quickly, Dr. Montoya. Of course, we all know that the bivalent vaccines are due to come out maybe later this year or maybe early next year even. For people who are now kind of like in limbo over whether or not to get their booster doses, whether first or second, do you think it's more prudent to just wait for the release of these new generation vaccines, or should they go ahead and just proceed with the older ones?
Well, Well, studies have shown so far that for the current vaccines that are available now, that they provide protection for as high as 85% for 4 to 6 months after the dose, which means that after 4 to 6 months, the antibodies will actually be reduced. So whether you actually get boosted again with the old vaccine or with these bivalent vaccines, it will really be dependent on what are the predominant strains now out there. For example, if the BA4 and BA5 variants become the predominant strains eventually in the country, for example, then we might consider favoring the bivalent boosters rather than giving the old vaccines. But again, as I said, this will depend on how these new variants will behave, whether they will get a foothold on the population or whether they will just be a few cases, or it will be the minority as far as distribution of these types are concerned.
All right, thank you so much for explaining all that to us, and thank you, of course, for your time. Infectious diseases expert Dr. Jaime Montoya over Zoom. Thank you, Doc. And a former health secretary says that there is room in the health department for officials with no medical background. Former Health Secretary Pauline Obial told The Big Story that previous presidents have appointed military officials and lawyers to the health department. Obial said former police chief Camilo Cascolan could focus on procurement, management, and human resources.
Well, as I mentioned, there are non-health portfolio in the DOH, particularly procurement, management, and human resource, as well as logistics. So he can actually help, like Yusek Alexander Padilla used to also take charge of the performance and good governance in the DOH. So that can be a portfolio for Cascolan.
Obiel added that the bigger issue at hand is having no health secretary at this point. She believes that it sends the wrong signal to the public and to the health sector. President Bongbong Marcos earlier said that he will appoint a health secretary once the COVID-19 situation in the country normalizes.
It's not a good signal in terms of the morale and the confidence of the people in the health sector towards their own colleagues. And there are so many experts already within the DOH and even in the private sector that could have taken such a portfolio.
We're going to pause for a quick break, but we will be back with more stories after that. Stay with us here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. Sardine manufacturers will be required to get their supply of tamban from small-scale fishers in the off-season after signing a deal with the Agriculture Department. Here's the report.
The Canned Sardines Association of the Philippines, or CSAP, previously warned of a possible shortage of the commodity. This as commercial catching of tamban will be prohibited from December to March. The closed fishing season allows certain types of fish to reproduce and mature. To ensure enough supply, CSAP and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, signed an agreement. Under the deal, manufacturers may only get their supply of tamban from small-scale fishers for the time being.
From the data we have, the local fisher folks have a difficult time selling tamban because it's not usually bought by consumers because the fish has a lot of bones, has a lot of scales.
The BFAR said over 8.5 million pesos will also be allocated for post-harvest support and needed equipment.
Doon mo sa proper handling in order for the sardines to be compliant with the quality requirement of the processing plants. Doon din ho, tuturuan natin yung sorting, kung paano i-sort at i-discriminate yung mga sardines na po pwede pumunta ng processing.
But some fish sellers already find it difficult to get their supply of tamban.
Wala na ako nakikita rin sa Malabon kasi parang kinukuha na yun ng mga nagsasardines. Binubultuhan kasi magkakaroon yata ng fishing ban.
Wala akong dating na tamban ngayon ano daw yung bawal.
Manufacturers of sardines are also calling for a 3 peso increase in the price of canned goods. They explained that costs of raw materials from abroad are also on the rise.
Hindi naman kami bumabawi doon sa 3 pesos. Pinaliliit lang yung nagiging kalugihan. So 2019 pa yung presyo ng sardinas from then up to 2022. That's painful for our industries.
For now, the Trade Department has yet to approve or reject the request. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, we are One News.
Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. The sister of the alleged middleman in Percy Lapid's murder is now under the Witness Protection Program. She earlier came forward to reveal that her brother disclosed some names on who could be responsible in the event of his death. June Villamor was found dead at the New Bilibid prison on October 18. The Education Department denies whitewashing history after a Marinduque student posted a module showing the term New Society to refer to martial law. Vice President and DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte also said that the terms New Society and Bagong Lipunan are based on historical fact and have been used in DepEd textbooks since the year 2000. The Philippines is set to ease travel restrictions further by dropping testing and vaccination requirements. The Tourism Department said that the stringent protocols, including RT-PCR testing and full vaccination for foreigners, will be scrapped soon. For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World Online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I am Sean Yao. We are One News.